Alright everyone, there's a very funny link in the description. It's actually a New York Times piece, and it's one of the most insane things that I've actually seen penned. And the thing is, like, the New York Times begs you to actually take this seriously. You're not supposed to just look at the title and scoff at this and say, oh, haha, this must be like, clever satire. It's actually meant to be serious, and it's mildly concerning, actually, because there will be people that will read this, unironically interpret this as reality as opposed to a weird, self-satirization of the New York Times. So link in the description. But by the way, first and foremost, if you're watching on YouTube, there will be a pinned comment with links to 4 other video hosting sites that I use. I've habitually begun to notify people of that because otherwise sometimes they don't check the descriptions because YouTube algorithmically throttles basically all of its independent creators now. It's becoming an on-demand service. Cleverly predicted by Razorfist in 2017, by the way. But you look at this article, and apparently critical thinking is now being canceled. The MSM begs you not to think critically about news stories. The gist of it is, you're a normal person, a normal, rational, neoliberal individual. You voted for Biden, so you're a good person, I guess, according to them. You may think that it's good to go and try to debate the white supremacists, which is basically, they use Stormfront as an example, which is, a Nazi site, ostensibly. But the insinuation is it's all tech, BitChute or Gab or something. You may think it's a good idea to go there and have a dust-up with the Nazis, but you shouldn't do that because they're better at propaganda than you. Essentially saying, please stay in your echo chamber. Now, let's analyze this in our traditional Styx-Hexen fashion. Clankers understand, of course, things like this is a for-profit entity, a multi-billion dollar entity. New York Times, a huge newspaper, even though it's in decline. Everything that they do is because of profit motive. They wouldn't have existed this long if that weren't the main ethos behind what they were doing. Governments work this way. Fucking schools work this way, which is why student loan debt exists. The MSM certainly works this way, and any corporation, any corporate entity not directly propped up by grants and shit like an NPR, they can be more just generically politically biased. There's a profit motive. Why would the New York Times not want you using Gab, or BitChute, or Minds.com, or Odyssey, or any of these others? Because they don't have a presence there. If you're interacting with that content, the only context in which you're going to see a New York Times article is debunking their bullshit. They don't want you seeing that. So if a bunch of people start using Parler, and the New York Times has roundly condemned its very existence, therefore it would be very, very difficult to eventually justify having a page there, I'll tell you exactly what they're worried about. They're worried that the next generation tech sites, where they're experimenting with cryptocurrency and blockchain and peer-to-peer networking and all of these wonderful things, they are terrified that those networks will gain more market share because they've boxed themselves in. They've painted themselves into a corner where ideologically it's almost impossible for them to paint their way out of it and actually use these sites that they've spent years defaming. They've done everything that they can to deplatform BitChute, to deplatform Gab, to deplatform Minds and Odyssey and Parler and Rumble and Brighteon and Subscribestar. The list goes goddamn on and on. There are sites that are old as fuck that they attack. Rumble's from 2013. It's not even a new website, and they still try to claim that it's a den of Nazis, despite the fact that its TOS is only marginally more liberty compliant than what you'd get on YouTube. Bongino buying in for a good reason because he realized he could make a quick buck. These sites have been defamed and attacked now for several years, and all of the attacks by and large have failed. In fact, in some cases, the sites fuck themselves. Patreon got taken down by deplatforming. Everyone else learned the lesson about owning your own servers. Maker support got down because its creator was, I guess, scamming people. By the way, I never got that like $100 worth of crypto I was owed. I can't even imagine what, by the way, it would be worth now, because that was back when Bitcoin was at what, 7,000 or something? I mean, a nice chunk of change. Not complaining particularly. I mean, he might have been tax evading, gone to prison, I wouldn't even know. But the New York Times doesn't want you to critically think. They want you to listen to what you're told. It's sort of like the way schools work. This is why we have a shitty society. We don't teach students how to critically think. We don't tell kids, hey, you should think critically about what we're telling you. We don't tell them that. We tell them what to memorize. And then we test them on their memory skills. Basically, we've got a bunch of people in the population that are very good at memorizing things. It's just the problem with learning how to memorize things is you've got to be told the truth. Therefore, you can memorize the truth. You've also created a population that is deeply sensitive to propaganda. When they say, well, white supremacists are better at propaganda than you, don't debate them. That is in and of itself misinformation and propaganda. The irony is, if you look at this kind of hit piece from the MSM, and you understand anything about how the MSM functions, you'll realize that virtually all of their attacks on disinfo are themselves actually disinformation. Need I remind you? Remember Sandman. All you have to do is look at one simple instance and you can see the MSM on full display and the stupidity that it is. Look at Nicholas Sandman and the Covington kids at the Capitol. This was, I think now 3 years ago. They're at the Capitol. They are doing nothing wrong. They are standing there minding their own business. They're literally just standing there. The MSM construed that as being Nazis. They took an image of Nick Sandman supposedly getting up in the face of a Native American, supposedly a marcher, with a MAGA hat on and used that sort of as the poster boy image of white supremacy. They completely inverted everything about the entire story to the point where there were cut and dry defamation cases, to my knowledge, all of which are being settled. Nick Sandman is now a multimillionaire. The other Covington kids, I think, are part of a class action. They're making out like bandits, I think, too. It was pure propaganda. Try and go to the echo chamber of leftist Twitter and explain to people the situation. Even show them footage of the interchange. They still think Sandman's a Nazi. They literally still believe that he went up to people and started shouting white supremacist slogans at them because he didn't like the color of their skin. Hence why he is winning these defamation cases, having so many multi-million-dollar settlements. Because his career possibilities have been irreparably damaged. By the way, I think, didn't he go to like a school down there in the South that's like really spooky and shit like that, like Salem or something like that? And it sounds like Halloween-y and it's kind of funny. I bet he dresses up Dracula too. He should dress up as a Klan member. Then you can join the Democratic Party. You can run as governor, like Northam. This is pure propaganda, though. The New York Times is literally telling you not to think critically, because then you might become a Nazi. It's interesting. Let's assume that their positing is right, and I completely discredit it. I don't believe that this is correct. But let's assume that what they're saying is true. They're essentially telling you the arguments for racial nationalism and right-wing fanaticism are stronger than that for liberalism. They're basically complimenting the Nazis. Very, very interesting now, isn't that? That's about all. Peace out.